Guidance is internal. Ignition sequence starts. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Permission to board. Permission to come aboard. Permission to board. Permission to bring me aboard. Permission to come aboard.
Welcome to the Permission Granted podcast. Here's DA.
Welcome to the freshest edition of the Permission Granted podcast, everybody, and fresh will be an operative word today. Of course, you can get the PGP available on its own iTunes feed. So go there, subscribe, and get all the PGPs just stacked on your iTunes, which is awesome. Also, we always tweet it out. DA on CBS is my Twitter handle. It's always on our Facebook page in video form as well. Video form by going to facebook.com/The DA Show. It's available on the normal iTunes feed that you get the DA Show on, full episode to the show normally. And then also it's available on our website, daoncbs.com. Just click on the audio tab. Coming up a little bit later, Mraz and I will discuss the upcoming interview. You by now know that Mraz loves Chipotle like a family member. And I have been turned off by Chipotle and have waged a little bit of a jihad against them because I always loved it and it turned its back on me and gave people EColi poisoning, diseased, vomit-inducing burritos. So, and in 12 states, it wasn't like one place got it. So I have turned my back on Chipotle and I've tried to go back and eat it and it just hasn't been nearly as good. I think because the turnover is not as good, so the meat and the beans is sitting there a little bit longer, congealing a little bit, and I've taken my swipes. Mraz is very upset at me. We had the epic Chipotle rant. I will die without those burritos. I will drop dead that Mraz had. And we've been going back and forth with Chipotle's official Twitter handle, which we learned was run by a guy by the name of Shane. So why wouldn't we book Shane from Chipotle as our guest in this week's Permission Granted podcast? Shane, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing great. What is the pressure like on a daily basis to represent Chipotle and Chipotle tweets? I mean, that's pretty big stuff there. That's heady stuff.
It is, but it's also all in good fun. We have an awesome fan base. Obviously, you're not one of them, but I'm gonna convince you otherwise. But we have a great fan base and a lot of really, really passionate folks who love burritos, and it's fun to talk to them all day long.
Shane, I used to be a fan. Until 12 states got E. coli from Chipotle.
And I understand that. That's obviously something that we're working out of, and we've made fundamental changes in the food safety process, and I'm kind of tasked with helping to re-educate the customers on all the things that we're doing to make sure that our food stays delicious, but they also stay safe.
Well, let's face it. I mean, you are now lifting boulders at this point because there was a lot of national fallout around it. I mean, you're basically equipped to have to defend the Exxon Valdez at this point. This cannot be an easy job for you.
Fortunately, I'm really passionate about what I do. I've been a huge Chipotle fan since long before I worked for the company, and started working for them actually only about 6 months ago, and really kind of got brought into a very volatile situation, and it's been a challenge for sure, but I enjoy it. I love talking, the one-on-one conversations that I get to have with folks like you and Mraz, and but all of the other multitude of customers that we get to talk to on a daily basis.
Were you brought in by Chipotle to do damage control on the E. coli break?
No, I came on shortly before that.
Oh my goodness! So that fell right in your lap.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's damage control, customer service. That's all a part of something that a community engagement strategist would do. A lot of it is customer care, making sure that people feel like they're listened to and taken care of when issues occur in stores, whether it's something as simple as my store doesn't have forks to this store didn't honor the coupon that you said that they would.
Right.
And so I work both with the customers and with the restaurants to ensure that everybody is on the same page.
So I'm going to bring Mraz in here in momentarily because he is your staunchest defender. But let me just give you my side of things. I walked into my first Chipotle in Kansas City, Missouri, because they were not here on the East Coast, and
That's my hometown.
There you go. What high school?
I'm from the Kansas side, so I went to Blue Valley Northwest.
There you go. All right, very nice. Yeah, I was in Kansas City working at 610 Sports for
Nice.
From 03 through 08. And so when I first moved out there, we didn't have Chipotle here on the East Coast. And I went out there, and my buddy's like, oh, you're going to move to the Midwest, you'll get Chipotle. So I walked in there, and I was like, oh, my goodness, this is the best burrito I've ever had. And I had my order down. I would go there regularly. I was all about it. I felt like I was getting a decent product with decent quality because you guys were not using GMOs, and you were using grass-fed meats, and you were using, a lot of the stuff that I like to eat. And then there's the EColi outbreak, and I'm like, boy, everything that I had founded, my 10 years of loving Chipotle on or more is now kind of out the window because I thought that this was really good quality food I'm getting. So I feel like Chipotle kind of, instead of like a McDonald's or some trash fast food that the quality's not very good, Chipotle founded itself, and I don't want to say you guys because you weren't part of the company at the time, but it founded itself on the quality of the food. And then for that to be such an outbreak of like diseased meat, that was difficult to stomach. I mean, literally and figuratively.
That's true. That's true. And just as a sidebar, not to derail you, but did you know this is a fun fact that Kansas City was actually the second city outside of Colorado.
I did not know that.
That Chipotle expanded to. It's true.
Wow.
It's true. Down on College Boulevard, it was one of the first ones, and then the one in Westport was the second one.
Ooh, the one on College Boulevard was the one I went to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right by Corporate Woods.
Exactly. Yeah, that's where the radio station was.
All right. So back to your question/statement. I agree. That's the challenge, right? Because a company that's really hung their hat on quality and their approach to food, and the truth is that hasn't changed. It is certainly a much more challenging discussion because of the things that have happened. But at the same time, that has not at all changed our approach to food. Our food with integrity principles still remain very much intact, and we are very committed to those. In fact, this weekend I'll be headed out to Phoenix to the Cultivate Festival, which is Chipotle puts on 3 of these festivals a year where they basically have a free to the public festival to kind of help educate folks on why we do things the way that we do and give people the opportunity to try our food and to get chef demonstrations. But there's also like great free music and everything like that. So,
well, what had to change when you guys went through this? Because we jokingly called it the moment of silence you guys had across all of the Chipotle stores, but you guys had to shut down and went over cleanliness and whatnot. And so what has had to change to kind of convince customers that that stuff's not going to happen again?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the things that we've done internally, right? We've done a lot of things to really make sure, doing some high resolution testing. When the incident happened, we actually brought in a food safety expert that was based out of a company in Seattle that really assessed food safety procedures at every single level of the company and made recommendations on the procedures and on the process. And what was kind of amazing, I've worked for big companies before. Chipotle's got somewhere between 50 and 60,000 employees if you count all the crew members. The sweeping speed with which those changes were made to make things better was something that I was still pretty new to the company when it happened. It was fascinating to me. I couldn't believe how quickly they managed to address that. And unfortunately, some of that stuff is not easy to to communicate, because it's a little bit, it's a little nerdy. You talk about high resolution DNA testing and things like that, and people are like, well, what does that mean? And, for me, I've got 140 characters more often than not to explain that. And, for us, I think, it's ensuring that people, whether it's a period of time that people feel like, there haven't been any incidents and they'll start coming back, or whether we're encouraging them to come back through promotions and things like that we've been doing, like the one that we did on the 8th of February when we closed down all the stores for a few hours. We want people to get back into the habit of coming in and eating with us, to make sure that they feel that it's safe. And that's really what we've been focusing on and doing.
Well, and I know you guys have sent out the coupons, because I got them in my neighborhood, free burrito or free chips and guac or salsa, whatever, when you come in. So you're trying to encourage people to come back. But was the outbreak of the illnesses or the disease or whatever, was that because of tainted meat that went out for a lot of different stores for you guys? Or was it all episodes of cleanliness and sanitation once that meat was at your stores?
So, and the CDC, I think, would probably they would concur with this. Is, unfortunately, in cases of foodborne illness, and there are millions and millions of cases of foodborne illness per year, not with us, but with restaurants and food service places all over the country, is that more often than not, with foodborne illness, unfortunately, identifying the source and the cause, it can be extremely difficult, because by the time that symptoms present themselves, the food that was the culprit is out of the store, especially in our case when we're dealing with such fresh food. More often than not, our food's shelf life in the store isn't very long. And so by the time it's rotated through, you have to think, like, if somebody reports that they're sick, they go probably to their local doctor, and then that has to go to a, if it's determined that they had some sort of foodborne illness, and they have to go to another person, and then it has to make its way up to just a local chapter of the CDC, and then that goes all the way up to the federal level. And by that point, that food is long gone, and it makes it really, really hard to actually find out exactly what it was. And so when the CDC closed the case, and that happened back in February, end of January, early February, they even said, we cannot determine what the source was, because the food was gone by the time that the stuff was detected. So I can't comment on that, because I truly don't know.
So I want to bring Mraz in here. Now, Mraz, your biggest fear is that when I criticize Chipotle about my fears of these illnesses, you are worried that I'm affecting a large enough portion of the consumer base that it will end up doing irreparable financial damage to Chipotle, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to brag about our show, but we do reach over 180 affiliates nationwide. That's a lot of listeners on a daily basis. And you're sitting there planting the idea in the head that Chipotle you're scared of, and I have to reiterate that there's nothing to be scared of. It's been a long time. They've taken every accountability.
Not that long.
It's been
what,
long.
6 months, 4 months.
6 months is long enough. Taco Bell recovered from their EColi. The Chipotle's the best, and just stop bringing it down. The place is great, and I can't live without it.
So Shane, is there any worry here for Chipotle enthusiasts that there could be chains, their stores closing down?
First off, Mraz, I freaking love you guys. You are the best. Thanks for being a huge fan, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Shane.
But the truth is that all day long, much of what I do is reassure people how safe our food is. And without kind of boring them with the details, we have a lot of information on Chipotle.com about what has gone into our changes in the food safety process. And, Steve Ells, our founder, has set a goal. And it's probably not something that's going to happen overnight, but the truth is that to aim at something like being the safest place to eat in our category, that in and of itself makes that's a message that we want to send, that look, we recognize and we apologize for the incidents that have happened, and we apologize to the people who were affected by it. But what we are doing now is we are doing, in the same way that we have over the last several years changed the way that people approach and think about fast food. We hopefully will be able to change the way that people think and approach food safety, because we really believe that much in it, and have committed lots and lots of resources to ensuring the safety of our customers.
Now, to shift away from what you termed the quote-unquote incident, I just want to bring Mraz in here, because, Mraz, you have an emotional connection to Chipotle. Can you please explain to Shane what that is?
Yeah, I mean, Shane, ever since college, I chose my college based on a Chipotle being nearby, and that's always been the thing that got me by, whether it's a week of work or anywhere I've been in my life, I've had a Chipotle close by. And I have figured out in my life that it would probably be easier for me to find another wife, another woman, than it would be to find another burrito to enjoy other than that of Chipotle. I went to Mexico once, and I couldn't wait to get home and have Chipotle because the food stunk in Mexico. I cannot live without it, so I need to be guaranteed that Chipotle will be around forever, because quite frankly, I will die without it, and I've mentioned this on the air. That's my favorite place to eat. I can't lose Chipotle. It would be like losing, my grandmother.
But here's the thing, Mraz, just to jump in here. What do you think that emotional connection is? I mean, it's not just that you love the burrito. It's that you've gone through important times in your life.
Important times, whether it's college, getting through papers, whether it's, tough weeks of work. That is always, Chipotle has always been the sour cream at the end of the rainbow for me.
Wow.
And I cannot survive life moments. Like anytime there's hardship, Chipotle is where I turn.
Wow.
And I just need to ensure that will always be there for me, because I cannot survive if Chipotle does not survive.
I'm a big fan of that metaphor, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, Mraz is not he's not alone. That is very indicative of our core customer. In fact, what I will tell you is, before I worked for Chipotle, that was me, and still is. You would think that working for Chipotle that I would get sick of eating there, but I still eat there 3 to 4 times a week. And it's a combination of things. I think it's a lot about, being able to count on the flavor and the quality that you're going to get, but also I think it's that feeling of camaraderie. Like I feel like I could go up to Mraz and hug him, and we would know each other because we're both kindred spirits when it comes to burritos. And there is an amazing amount of community around the people who love the brand. They believe in it, and they are committed to it. And the whole thing about choosing your college based on its distance from a Chipotle, that happens. I get that a lot. I'm on Chipotle's Twitter most days, and I hear everything from people who want us to cater their weddings to folks who are wanting to go there for prom, and the folks who go internationally, and whether it's an international time abroad for college or whatever, and they are so upset because they didn't plan it out and they should have picked somewhere that had a Chipotle, because we've got a few stores that are international, and that in and of itself is very similar to what Mraz experiences. It's that thing that you can't really put your finger on it specifically, but there's a sense of community within the people who believe in the brand.
Short, quick question here. How many hours a day do you spend running the Chipotle Tweets Twitter feed? Like a normal day, somewhere between 8 and 9. And then do you have an intern take over after you're done, or you just kind of log back on the next day?
No, yeah, we've got we have a team covering our what we call the channels most hours of the day.
The Chipotle channel.
Yeah, so we don't just cover the tweets. We also cover Facebook. We cover Chipotle's other brands, like Shop House, which is based in, there's several in Washington D.C. and few in Chicago and a couple in LA. It's the Southeast Asian concept that they're kind of curating and building, and then there's a pizza brand that they're looking at as well that has there's actually one here in Kansas City, Pizzeria Locale. It started in Boulder and has kind of expanded. So we watch all of those, and we have a whole team of people that kind of rotate through. I'm the one who's on the most, and I tend to take the middle of the bulk of the day. But we have other folks that come on, and we cover almost all of the hours of the day.
Well, Shane, I appreciate you being a good sport. Thanks for joining us.
I'm happy to do it.
And if you're in New York, I need to get you connected with Mraz because he'll love you to the day you die. I mean, you guys have a bond here, so you please let us know when you're in the Big Apple, okay?
I will for sure do that. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking the time with me.
You got it. Good job. Shane, community engagement strategist for Chipotle. All right, so Mraz joins me now. I feel like you have a kindred spirit in Shane.
Man, I wish Shane lived in New York because I would hang with Shane all the time. The fact that he said he would hug me and he could not also live without those burritos.
Let me be fair. I thought Shane came off really well. He's a great representative for the company because he wasn't on the defensive. He wasn't antagonizing. He
seemed like he tried to speak as honestly as he could from the heart.
Yeah, he wasn't defiant. You don't want somebody to be defiant or aggressive or combative. He wasn't any of that. Seemed like a generally good guy, and most people from the Kansas City area are just generally great people, so it doesn't surprise me. I will say that one thing didn't pass the sniff test with me.
I think I know where you're going here.
And that is when I asked him, was this poisoned meat?
You called it tainted meat, by the way.
Tainted meat. Was it tainted meat? It's so funny that this is the thing that we as a show have like really dissected. And this is a social cause here.
Somebody in America has to do it.
That the tainted meat, was it poisoned meat that went out to all these stores, or was it a lack of cleanliness or sanitation at the stores? He says he doesn't know, that they can't tell, that the CDC can't even know, there's too much turnover, all this stuff. Fact of the matter is, I find it very hard to believe that 12 different stores in 12 different states all had a random,
different version. Somebody had the lettuce, somebody had the sour cream, somebody had the chicken.
Well, or that there were all these incidents in 12 different states of employees at Chipotle, like
dropping the oven cleaner into it,
right? Yes. Or not washing their hands, or letting a rat crap in the chicken thing, So I think it had to have been a bad batch of food, bad batch of meat that went out and got dispersed, and then that's what ended up happening.
Which, two things, and I've been very pro Chipotle, but I'll try to be down the middle here for a second.
Okay.
If you know and you don't want to tell us, that's one thing. But if you really don't know, that even scares me a little bit. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, if you're really saying you don't know, could have been this, could have been that, that answer kind of made me pause. Now, listen, nobody's been sick for 6 months, so I'll still go through. But I don't think that necessarily helped the cause with that answer.
Right. Yeah, to be honest, we really don't know. We don't know what it was. And
nobody's thrown up in 6 months, though, so come on back.
Yeah, that's so true. It's so true.
Also, him referring to it as the incident, really... Like they've dubbed that in the Chipotle headquarters hallways. We're just going to call this the incident, like Watergate. It's just the incident.
The incident, like the drive or the fumble. It's
right. When they write the book of Chipotle in 70 years, they're going to look back on this date and call it the incident.
I would also say we got a formal apology out of Chipotle.
Right. I would like to personally apologize on the behalf of Chipotle, I think was the quote, which I don't think... Now, listen, we've seen a lot of statements on record, whether it be on camera, on audio. I think that's the first apology from Chipotle, which I think is a big deal for our program.
That was huge. That's big for us.
Right.
It's really big. Here's one thing I got to call BS on as well.
Oh, come on. He was great.
And I like Shane. People want their weddings catered by Chipotle.
I believe it.
People want their proms at Chipotle. How can you have a prom at a Chipotle?
There's some small high schools there are in the Midwest.
Come on.
Listen.
And then people are going across seas to study abroad and going, I wish there was a Chipotle closer.
They got us, man. I'm telling you, because I'm hooked too. You need your fix. Even if you're not eating it every day, you need your Chipotle fix. And listen, who was it? Mike Evans had the Whataburger at his wedding. I'm sure there are people that want Chipotle at their weddings.
Well, I wouldn't mind.
I would just recommend the extra bathroom stalls if you're serving that at the wedding.
A corporate party, a Christmas party, a birthday party. I get it. A family reunion, something like that. Do I want my prom and wedding to be Chipotle.
Well, like, you see these people all the time. They have the weddings like at Alabama football stadium. You know, people have their niches. There are people who love Chipotle who want that to be. What if a couple met at Chipotle? You know what I mean? And that would be a cool idea if Chipotle cater your wedding.
I guess.
I got to sway you here. I love it.
And then also, I mean, you're studying abroad. Guess what? The point of studying abroad is not having to eat dumb American food.
College kids are idiots, though.
The whole point is immersing yourself in a different language, not to fall back on dopey American stuff.
I told you, though, I went to Mexico. There's nothing dopey about Chipotle. It is the most authentic Mexican food you will eat in the world.
Oh, that was amazing. I don't even know how much more time we have left to
We have like 2 minutes. I mean,
here.
Boy, can we even get into anything else other than Chipotle madness is taking over here?
I thought we were going to get into the Chris Moore
we're going to have to keep teasing this here.
rip job on
well,
me.
luckily, it's still going on Twitter.
Apparently, it's never going to end.
Right, where he's digging his heels in here with the Steph Curry stuff I keep seeing.
Come on. You know, Chris Moore wants to insist that the NBA playoffs are not interesting until we get to the NBA Finals, and that everything has basically been decided because it's going to be Cavs and Warriors. And that's why he wasn't going to talk about them last week when he filled in for me, which is utterly ridiculous because in April, there's millions of people watching these games.
Right.
Outside of the NFL playoffs, it's the single biggest sports story. To ignore them or avoid them because you're not interested in them or you think that they're already complete is selfish and dumb. It's like one of the dumbest tacks you can take. So anyway, with Steph Curry getting injured, clearly this throws a huge question mark into it. And you have no idea if the Warriors will survive the second round. And
they have become interesting now.
And the whole playoffs are extraordinarily interesting. And he is digging his heels in and insisting, nope, it's not interesting. I don't care.
He's pot committed, bro. He's got to dig his heels in.
I mean, so now we're going.
I almost have more respect for him now that he's really dug the heels in at you.
Because the opinion, it's so lame. It's so lame. Like, well, I still don't think the Cavaliers can be beat, and I never said it was without Steph Curry. Well, now there is no Steph Curry, so the world changed. These have to be interesting again.
You almost need the Warriors to not win an NBA Finals here to prove your point.
The point's already been made because
I understand, but that'll further back your point. You know what I mean?
Well, let's even say that the Warriors win the NBA Finals. Let's say they beat the Spurs in 7.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the Clippers in 6, and they beat the Cavs in 6. There will obviously be moments over the next 2 months that are interesting.
Where they sweat it out because they're not sweeping everybody.
Well, and we'll have to talk about that.
Right.
I mean, it's not like you just get to not talk about the sport that's happening because you're not interested in it.
Well, see, that was my problem. I actually agree that I didn't think I don't think the first round of the NBA players are interesting. It does become a Steph Curry, but that doesn't mean you don't talk about them. Your take could be, I don't find them interesting, and take calls on that. I'm not going to talk about it because I don't find it interesting.
Well, it's
Make that a take.
It's self-defeating to be a sports talk host and not be interested in sports. Then why are you doing it?
But then don't bring up golf in the second segment.
What? If you're not interested in anything happening, why are you employed in this industry?
That's why we got to vote for Mraz. We got to start pushing it.
Well, I think this is the backbone of the Vote for Mraz platform because if we're going to have a fill-in host that doesn't find the NBA playoffs interesting, then why don't we have a host like you that might not have the experience, but at least will be engaged in the sports that everybody's watching. Again, this is not going to be like the surfing league. It's not going to be like, the World Series of Poker. Millions of people will be watching these games, so you have to be able to talk about them.
100%. I agree. But he's digging his heels in, so if you want to check it out at More to Say on Twitter and DA on CBS, they've had quite the back and forth.
You got Kenny Brock coming up to lay waste to the Eagles, huh?
Yeah, I was going to give James Ward a run here with the Ward's winners. Joe D we had on last week, and then I thought about it. You know what? Our overnight listeners probably miss a little Kenny Brock. Those who weren't with us necessarily on the overnight have heard Kenny Brock referenced. He is as blue-collar an Eagle fan as they come. And on top of that, he was our college football guru on the show for 2. So it just made sense here with the draft and the Eagles trading up. And I've seen his tweets, and I know he is ticked off about the Eagles trading up. So Kenny Brock, without being live on a show, likes to let things fly, and I think this is going to make for a very interesting side B.
This is a great PGP. This is number 88, the PGP, with Shane from Chipotle answering the questions I need answered about the incident and Kenny Brock shredding the Eagles. Side B happens now.
All right, welcome into Side B of the Permission Granted podcast, a NFL Draft Week edition of the Permission Granted podcast. I am the executive producer of the DA show, Sean Mraz, and instead of being joined by Joe D. or James Ward, one of the two associate producers of the DA show, we're going to be joined by former associate producer of the DA show, a long-awaited return, a man who was hosting Side B from me from the get-go on this Permission Granted podcast, Kenny Brock. And the reason I wanted to bring in Kenny, for those of you who have been with us since the overnight, you know his deal. Big-time Philly fan. Before Ward's Winners, there was Brock's Locks. He was the big-time college football guy, studies this draft stuff. He's over at the CBS Sports Network now, I'm sure, getting ready for a lot of draft prep. And Kenny joins us here. Kenny, welcome aboard.
Mraz, what's happening? I appreciate you wanting to, bring someone on who can actually inform the listeners on stuff instead of Joe D. and Ward, who couldn't be more lost on the situation.
Whoa, taking shots at my guys.
Well, Joe D. at least. I heard about his little rant a couple months back about, Kenny's gone, leave it alone. Like, Joe D., you could never fill my shoes.
Okay, so Kenny has come out swinging here on Side B. That'll be noted for Joe, and I'm sure Joe will have to take that like a man. But Brodsky,
yeah, as much of a man as he can at his height.
Oh boy, a lot of shots. I got to stick up for Jody. That's currently my guy. I can't have you stepping all over him here.
That's fine. I'll step all over him.
All right. Well, listen, Brock. I know you know these. I know you know all these first round picks inside and out. You've been all over this draft stuff, but specifically you as a Philly guy with the Eagles. The news last week of the Eagles trading up into the number 2 slot to probably take Carson Wentz, and I saw you tweet immediately, A.K. Brock Jr., a GIF of essentially, what was it, one of the Care Bears just jumping in front of a bus. I'm going to take that you're not a fan of this move from a Philadelphia standpoint.
I'm not a fan of this offseason at all for the Eagles. I think they've done some pretty good things, but I tweeted earlier today that Howie Roseman is power drunk right now, and I said that he's as power drunk as I was drunk on Saturday.
Well,
I'm making better decisions, and I was pretty torched on Saturday.
I would imagine that's very drunk, knowing you.
Extremely drunk. Thank you. But yeah, it's just, I don't understand what they're doing. Howie's he's pissed off that he got quote unquote demoted last year when Chip was there and he didn't have any kind of control, and Chip did his own thing, even though supposedly Howie had his fingers interlocked with some and now he's coming back in and he's, basically just trying to have a pissing contest and with Chip, and Chip's not even around. Are you kidding me that they're trading this many draft picks for Carson Wentz? I mean, have you seen Carson Wentz play?
I have not. I can honestly say I have not.
I've seen him play once. I saw him play in the national championship for 1AA 2 years ago because my cousin played for Towson, and they were playing North Dakota State in the Bison in the championship. So obviously I was all in on that game. I couldn't tell you one throw that guy made, and I'm supposed to believe that we're going to trade up to the number 2 spot for this guy, and he's going to be the future of the franchise? Get the out of here, Howie.
Well,
if you're trading up if you're going to tell me they're trading up for Jalen Ramsey at number 2, I'm all in. Howie's a genius. But if they draft Carson Wentz, I'm so far out on the Eagles, it's not even a joke.
What I love about the answer you just gave me is you're really pulling back the layer on what I think many Philly fans feel. And you're never going to hear the tirade you just went on Sports Talk Radio because you would have been dumped right away. So obviously I had to bleep out a lot of what you just said. But I think you get the point that this is not exactly the direction I want to go. Now, that being said, I think you texted me something earlier that said you're basically done with the Eagles right now.
I mean, as it stands currently, depending on what happens Thursday night, I'm pretty much done with
the NFL. Here's the thing. What if you jump...
I can't hear another thing about Tom Brady and Dan Deflategate either. I honestly want to walk around here with a noose and
okay.
God. I mean, seriously, can that thing die? It's been 3 years in a row, 2 years in a row. Enough's enough.
You're right.
Get it.
The Deflategate thing is the old hit by the bus. Now, what if Carson Wentz becomes like this pro? What if he becomes Joe Flacco? You're not going to be happy with that?
What, Joe Flacco won Super Bowl and then?
But that's one more Super Bowl than you've ever seen.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay. I'll trade in one Super Bowl and I'll eat the crow for it. But I got a pretty strong feeling I'm not going to have to eat any damn crow.
I hear crow's not that tasty anyway.
Yeah, you throw a little hot sauce on it, make it taste all right.
All right. Well, avoiding your cursing all over the place here, I do want to tap into your college football brain a little bit. Take the Eagles aside. I want a couple guys, other than we all know the deal, Goff, Tunsil.
I wouldn't even be that sold on Goff. I think this is going to be part of my problem with the NFL and how they try to teams try to restructure their franchises through the draft. There's not a Andrew Luck or a Jameis Winston or a Cam Newton in this draft. So why are you force-feeding these two guys down our throats? Draft Laramie Tunsil, draft a Joey Bosa, draft a Jalen Ramsey, get those positions, and then in the third and fourth round, take a Christian Hackenberg, who I honestly think is going to be a legit professional quarterback. I think he's going to be an all-pro type of guy, and he's going to be. Okay. I wish that's who the Eagles would take.
So you're still in on Hacker. You think Hackenberg's the best quarterback not named Goff or Wentz?
Yeah, I would say he's probably. I like Paxton Lynch, but he was a little too inconsistent for me.
Okay.
In terms of what I saw on tape and stuff, as I'm Mike Mayock breaking down tape, not really. But like when I watch games, like that's my thing. Like I'm not a huge what was his passing percentage against blah blah blah. Like I can watch a game and I know if a player is a legit player or if he's a fraud.
The eye test.
Hackenberg's a player. Yeah, the old eye test. That's all. I'm a blue collar Philly guy, man. We're all about the eye test. So I watched Hackenberg a lot his first year, obviously being an Ohio State fan. And I'm all in on the Big Ten. And when he was under Bill O'Brien, he was a stud. He was going to be the number one overall pick if he came out. And now that he was under James Franklin, who is offensively challenged, and that's putting it kindly, he struggled a lot. And Penn State didn't have any playmakers. They had a couple guys last year who did a couple things, but the year before that, 2 years ago, it was atrocious. So I actually felt bad for the kid. And, he's not going to get any credit for sticking around at Penn State when he should have probably taken off like everyone else did. So that, and now people are saying, oh, well, he threw James Franklin under the bus in the team interviews. Well, no, he's just being honest. God forbid, in this PC world that we live in, somebody speaks their mind. So I'm all in on that. Sign me up.
All right, so you're all in, and I just want to rip through a couple because I know we don't have all day here. You got to get back to work over the CBS Sports Network. A couple things.
I know, we're taping a draft show right now. Don't tell my bosses that I'm on the phone.
Right. Here we go. You bring up Hackenberg. Your thoughts on Cardale Jones? Does he have any future in the NFL, or is that just a waste of a late pick?
I think you could take a flyer on him in the 5th or 6th and, let him sit for 2 years because I think he's got the raw talent.
Right. He's got a cannon, man.
Yeah, he's a cannon. He's an athlete. He was really inconsistent for Ohio State in the beginning of the year this year, and I was ready for him to be pulled. I don't think he should have started this year anyways. That's a whole different issue. It's J.T. Barrett's squad. But he caught fire 2 years ago at the end of the season and played some of the best football that you could have asked a guy who's been sitting on the bench for a couple of years to play. I think he has talent, and I think if he gets the right tutelage under a good quarterback's coach and he sits behind the guy for 2 or 3 years, I think you might be able to get something out of him. But it's just you got to keep him focused on getting his accuracy better because he gets a little wayward with his passes sometimes, and the decision making is definitely something that you have to improve on. But I think raw ability wise, I think that he has that talent to become a good quarterback. It's just a problem of if he goes and sits with pick a terrible offense. I can't even.
The Browns. Let's say he sits behind RG3.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about the Browns. Might be all right because Hugh Jackson.
Yeah, that's true. Hugh's
quarterback guru. But for pick your third tier NFL squad and put him on there, and he's gonna kind of wither away. So
okay, and now listen, you're an Ohio State guy, so I trust you with the Ohio State stuff. Which of these two potential Ohio State top 10 picks has a better career?
Ezekiel Elliott
over Bosa.
Over Bosa. Ezekiel Elliott's going to be. He's a third down, ready to play right now, contribute consistently, 1,300-yard rusher, 600 yards receiving out of the backfield. I think he's a combined 2,000-plus yard line from scrimmage type of guy.
Right. See, me personally, for my team, I don't want the Giants taking him at 10 if he fell because I think they have too many holes. But I think a team, for instance, like the Cowboys at 4, behind that offensive line, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, my God. He would be. I would hate to have him in a division. But, since I'm done with the Eagles anyways, I might be all in. Or if you're a team like the Dolphins who desperately need a running game in the worst way and you have a couple young pieces there, I think he could be a really good fit in Miami as well. But I think Bosa's going to be good. The problem is that everyone's comparing him to J.J. Watt, and he's not J.J. Watt. He's not that type of overpowering pass rusher. He's more of a speed. He has the upper body strength, obviously, and he can put his hand in the dirt and get grimy if he needs to. But I think he's more of kind of a speed edge guy who can give you a little shimmy shake here and there. But I think he's going to fall victim to the whole, well, this is what J.J. Watt did, and this whole culture that we've built around J.J. Watt.
Okay, and now here's the last one I'm going to give you. another potential for 2 top 10 picks. Both have risk for different reasons. Who has the better career? Is it Miles Jack with the knee concern, or is it Leonard Floyd, who still needs to be coached up a bit and we don't really know where exactly he's going to play on the field?
I'll answer like this. Leonard who?
Okay.
So
All right.
I'm a huge Miles Jack guy. I think, all right, I'll give you a guy who's going to slip into the late rounds because of some injury concerns, but who was a top 10 pick, and now teams are going to be wayward on him. And I hope that the Eagles pick him up in the 3rd round if he's still there. Jalen Smith is going to be an absolute freak in the NFL. You draft him now, you let him rehab 24/7 with a professional team for 1 year, and he will be an absolute stud as a linebacker in the NFL. I'm all in on Miles Jack.
Okay, so I'm all in on Miles Jack too as well. Floyd, I do think is a bit of risk, and bringing up Jalen there, I think that makes a lot of sense. Although I wouldn't be shocked if he makes it to day 3 with the 4, 5, or 6 rounds, because that many teams are down on him from what I'm reading. So, I mean, would you get killed taking? I think you might get killed taking him in the 3rd round. I think you almost got to wait and be the first team that jumps in the 4th round.
I think we have 2 or 3 third-round picks this year, and we need a lot of help in a lot of places.
With the Eagles,
so,
okay.
With the Eagles, yeah. So I would, if the Eagles drafted him in the 3rd round, I would not have a problem with that.
You know what, Kenny? I'll do you one better, and I think actually you're making a lot of sense, and I'm thinking of this on the fly. The fact that they've traded their 1st-round pick next year might make sense to take Jalen this year because he could be like their 1st-round pick next year when he's ready.
He won't play this year. You let him rehab, and because you don't want to rush him back.
Right.
He's 22, 21-year-old kid. He had a major knee injury. That was disgusting when I saw that live.
Of course.
When he played Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl. And you feel bad for a kid like that because he is a top 10 talent. But, happens sometimes. So you bring him in, you let him work with your rehab staff, you get his mind right, you get him physically ready, and then he's just going to come out and dominate in the year after. And like you said, he's like a 1st-round pick when he starts playing in 2017.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, Kenny, I know you got to run. I know you got to get back. Thank you so much for joining. I know the listeners miss you. I know they miss you calling me fat and all that good stuff. So it's good to talk to you.
Yeah, you are looking a little slimmed down now.
I've been on a hard...
No, you're not. I'm just kidding. You're still fat.
All right. Well, okay. Well, that just happened. All right. Well, on that note, goodbye. I hope the Eagles fail miserably, and that's the end of it.
Oh, they will. They will. They'll be 4-12 this year. Don't worry about it.
All right. Well, if you guys are into the draft, Kenny's always a good follow on Twitter at KBrockJR, especially if you like uncensored Twitter because he just goes off with the foul language these days. You can follow me at Mraz CBS. And other than that, I guess have a good weekend, everybody.